There are three certainties in life. One is death, one is taxes, and the third, seemingly, is that no matter how many matches Ruben Amorim loses as Manchester United manager, he'll stay in a job. Now the third one is that EA will release a yearly football game. What was once FIFA is now known as EA Sports FC, and we now have 26 available on the Nintendo Switch 2. But is it quality like Ousmane Dembele, or is it a bit more Tanguy Ndombele? I'm Glen, and now let's find out. So let's start by saying that EA have said that in terms of gameplay modes and new gameplay innovations, EA Sports FC 26 does have parity on the Switch 2. Any gameplay modes or tweaks implemented into this year's game will be in the Switch 2 version. And in their trailer, EA have gone big this year, promising to sort a lot of the problems out that people have had in the previous games, going back of course to the FIFA days, with their "We Hear You" slogan getting a fair number of people excited. So the first big gameplay innovation is that there are two gameplay modes now in terms of exactly how you can play the game, these being the competitive and authentic modes. Competitive promises a similar gameplay experience to that you would have had before, almost advertising itself as arcadey in some respects, with faster gameplay, more accurate shots, show-stopping saves from the keepers, etc, etc. Authentic promises an experience that is a bit more akin to what you would see on the TV or live in a stadium, with a slower pace, better movement off the ball, and goalkeepers that don't seem invincible. You can choose which one of these you want across all of the gameplay modes within EA Sports FC 26, but it does recommend using competitive for online modes and authentic for things like the simulation modes, manager mode, career mode, etc. Let's look more specifically at the Switch 2 version now and what that does that perhaps the others don't, and a couple of those include Game Chat and Game Share. You can use Game Chat to speak with your friends using the Switch 2's camera accessory and the C button on the joycon to take advantage of the built-in voice chat option. With Game Share, you can invite another Switch 2 player into your session as a guest, even if they don't own a copy of the game. It says the host can add up to 3 local players, making it possible to play with 4 people on that one console, again on one copy of the game. I didn't try this out, but it's nice to see that they are implementing some Switch specific features. On the more negative side though, the Switch 2 version doesn't have crossplay when playing online, although I did try a couple of online matches, and even with this in mind, it didn't take long at all to find a match, and I didn't have any issues when playing online. So at least the lack of crossplay isn't an issue in terms of finding a match. It's just disappointing if you have friends that own a different console. You can also use local wireless to play local seasons mode, with 2 people having a Switch 2 and copy of the game of their own, negating the need for a Nintendo Switch Online membership in order to play with your friends. Another new feature for this year's edition is the archetypes. These are football classes inspired by iconic players, and you can select a base archetype and then evolve your abilities across the season, earning XP, boosting the attributes of your players to give them an identity on the pitch. Let's look a bit more at generic gameplay modes now then, and as you may expect, you have a lot of the ones that you would have seen before. You have manager mode, you have player career mode, you have ultimate team, you have kickoff where you can just jump in and play a match without having to go through the hassle of seasons and what have you. And there are a number of different tournaments that you can play in. It has the license for the Champions League, of course, the Europa League, the Conference League, as well as a few of the non-European competitions, Libertadores, for example. And these provide a really nice, authentic experience as you go from match day 1 all the way through, with the logos and banners you would expect, the iconic music, of course. A hub where you can check other scores, league tables, top scorers, etc. This is a nice inclusion and well implemented. The general gameplay though, now of course, as I said at the beginning, there's been this big push of "We Hear You" and all of these changes made. I'm going to be honest, I didn't notice a huge amount of difference. I played a few matches in classic competitive mode and then jumped into the new authentic mode. I will say it did feel a bit slower, which is of course what they did advertise, and you did feel you had a bit more time on the ball. Defences didn't feel quite as rigid in terms of their shape. It did feel that teams were pulled out of position a little bit more, opening up space for you. So I guess in some respects there were some differences. It wasn't quite the game changer I was expecting, judging by the aggressive advertising campaign that EA employed. But there were enough subtle differences, I guess, on reflection, that it's definitely a positive step forward for the franchise. Now, I've dipped in and out of the FIFA EA Sports series over the years. I used to be quite an ardent player. The last one I played quite vehemently was 18 on the Switch. I played 24 on the Switch also. So as you can see, there's some gaps in terms of what I've played. And one thing I did notice here, which is a big negative as far as I'm concerned, is the seeming lack of any real single player options in Ultimate Team. It seems that these days this is catered much more towards online multiplayer, and this may well have been the case for the last couple of years. Apologies if so, but for me, this was a major disappointment. Ultimate Team was always the mode I put the most time into, playing in single player, building a team of stars, using the card system, not spending any money, just doing it through matches. And to see that it's gone so far towards online these days is a real shame. For me, this will go from a mode I played the most to one I probably won't touch again. So if you are of a similar mindset, just bear this in mind. The manager modes and the player career mode are a lot of fun. The player career mode in particular, actually, I really enjoyed this time round. You can create your own player, as you always could, of course, or you can select an icon of the game and almost start their career again into your chosen team. It was nice to have Juan Sebastian Veron back in England, looking to see if we can establish him in this league in a way that unfortunately didn't really happen for him in his career, despite the fact he was incredible everywhere else he went. In terms of controls, the actual controls themselves are absolutely fine. I didn't have any major issues with them. You'll get as much out of the game as you are prepared to put in terms of the different skills that you can learn and the attributes that each player has that you can unlock. And looking specifically at the Switch 2 version, again, you can use a single joycon, which is nice to see. And in handheld mode, you can use the touchscreen for menus, and you can also pinch the screen to enlarge and zoom in. Again, it's nice to see the Switch versions using Switch specific features. It's a shame that you can't use the mouse in this Switch 2 version. Again, for things like the manager mode and the career mode, it would have been nice to navigate the menus using the mouse, but this isn't an option. Gameplay is classic FIFA / EA Sports FC. There's not a huge innovation this time round, not to the point that I was expecting, but I do like some of the subtle tweaks made. On the whole, gameplay gets 17 out of 20. Controls, as I said, do the job. It's a shame not to see the mouse used for menus, but on the whole, they also get 17 out of 20. Now moving on to the visuals, and the game itself has had some visual adjustments according to EA to enable consistent performance. I'll read these out to you. It says it has simplified hair rendering, lower resolution grass and crowd textures, and reduced sideline details. I'll be honest, none of these really bothered me. I mean, things like low hair rendering is an issue in a lot of games. For me, it's more of a case that the player models, for the most part, just look disproportionate when you see any cutscenes of them entering or leaving the pitch, substitutions, for example. Certain players look better than others. This is always the case, depending on the level of detail they put into the face technology, and you can tell the bigger players in terms of who they're meant to be. They still have that weird look to their eyes where they're never really looking where they should be, which makes them look quite lifeless. And it would be nice to see little details like this worked on to try and get that full-on matchday experience for the next game. And it was also disappointing to see things like players running straight through advertising hoardings as if they weren't there when celebrating, just little immersion breakers that shouldn't really be here. On the whole though, the game does look good, and it does certainly get across the feeling of watching a match. But then we come to the other issue with the Switch 2 version, and this one is very disappointing, and that's the fact that of course it runs at 30 frames per second. Having had years of getting legacy editions on the Switch, and then finally seeing the Frostbite engine brought in, I assumed, perhaps foolishly, that the Switch 2 version, the first one we got, being 26, would run at 60. That isn't the case. We are still looking at 30 frames per second. It's not a deal breaker. It will bother some people more than others. It's just not the sign of progression I was hoping to see. Moving on to the audio, and I'll be honest, for me, this part seems like a big downgrade in terms of what's come before. I do feel like the commentators used this time round, being Derek Ray, Guy Mowbray, Stuart Robson and Sue Smith. This is the UK version of the game I'm talking about, by the way. Some of whom have been in the game before, of course, but I do feel like with each iteration, the commentary becomes that bit more derivative. There's no real conversational flow to the commentator and co-commentator anymore. And then there was some oddities as well, such as live match updates from other games. This example here where it states that Monaco have pulled a goal back, when if you look in the corner, you can see that they're actually winning 2-1.
Scott has the details.
Yeah, it's a goal for Monaco. They're
They've pulled one back and now trail by one with 80 minutes played.
Music-wise, as it always does, it has a number of licensed songs within the menus. None to my particular taste, but they do the job of, again, just making things feel very modern and placing it in the year it's releasing. Visuals in terms of a match experience look fine. Some of the close-ups don't quite hold up so well, and that 30 frames per second is just a disappointment. They get 16 out of 20. Audio, on the other hand, for me is one of the weakest aspects of the game. Feels like a step back from a few years ago. Perhaps that's just commentary in general these days. It gets 14 out of 20. EA Sports FC 26 costs £59.99 on the Switch 2, and regional equivalents are on your screen now. In terms of trying to give value a score, I think there are two ways to look at it. You can look at how long some people will play this game for, and if you love your football and you're a big fan of playing digital versions of it, you're going to get a huge amount of hours out of this, hundreds I'm sure for some people. In terms of what's been added, I do like the fact that they have included a new gameplay way of playing, being the authentic mode. I do feel that everything else is pretty much as you would expect if you played the last few iterations. So it's just how much you want the new teams, the new squads, the new kits, etc. to showcase playing with the team that you love. If you're getting a physical version, then it is a case, again, I'm afraid, of a game key card. It's not going to affect the score, but I'll just make you aware of it. I picked it up myself, and it's soul crushing to see that once you've put the cartridge into your Switch 2, you need to download a game for 66 gigs. It's an absolutely crazy practice, and hopefully one that dies a death at some point in the future. On balance, I'd say value gets 13 out of 20. To conclude, EA Sports FC 26 is a very solid first outing for the long-running series on the Switch 2. I do like the fact they have tried to implement some gameplay changes. How successful they are will depend on each individual person, but hopefully that's something we'll see moving forward, where it's not just about new modes, but actually really trying to have a significant focus on tweaking and improving the actual gameplay. The modes that are here are fun. Ultimate Team seems like a massive step back, but it may well have been like that for the last couple of years for all I know. But that 30 frames per second is not what I expected to see on a first outing on a brand new console, in a game that advertised itself as having parity in many areas. Still fun to play, but not the game changer that the trailer would have you believe. EA Sports FC 26 gets a SwitchUp score of 77%. So there you have it, that's my review of EA Sports FC 26. Do let me know what you think of it down in the comment section. Don't forget to give the video a like if you did like what you've seen. And also remember, if you're looking for eShop credit to pick this game up, or any other game for that matter, you can use our website, switchup.gg, to get your eShop cards, and doing so will get you 5% of your purchase price back as cashback. There are links down there to places such as PlayAsia as well. If you're looking to import any games, you get yourself 5% off of your purchase price from there too. Thank you to our patrons and our channel members for your continued support, and to each and every one of you for watching our videos. Take care, and until next time, happy gaming.